Hello and welcome! Today I will show you how I painted this squirrel sketch in line and wash, so let's get started. I'm using this reference photo from pixabay.com as a guide for sketching and painting my squirrel. I begin by sketching the squirrel shape in my watercolor journal. I'm using Arches cold press paper for this. I'm drawing lightly, starting with basic shapes until I'm confident in the pose and proportions. I will erase some of my circles at the end, but I'm not minding some messy lines because I'm trying to keep this loose and unfussy. Once I'm happy with the proportions, I add the details like the fingers and toes, eyes, and some fur texture. To paint the squirrel, I used just 3 colors: neutral tint, sepia, and burnt umber. I will have the supplies I used in the video description. I begin with neutral tint on the face and I'm adding it to dry paper. I'm keeping it fairly light and I'm really trying not to be perfect with it. I add some burnt umber and let it blend softly into the other wet paint. I will drag some watery mix across his back, and I'll keep adding neutral tint, burnt umber, and sepia, following the lights and darks that I see in the reference photo. To make the darker shadow areas, like where the haunch of his leg meets the body, I'm using a more concentrated pigment. I do this by using less water in the paint. For the tail, I make long strokes on dry paper with neutral tint. I'm making sure that I make each stroke in the direction of the fur, and I'm careful to keep some white spaces in between. I add a little burnt umber and sepia as well for variety and consistency. Back to his body, which is still slightly damp, I add some thicker consistencies, since the values seemed like they were going to be too light when they dried. Around the eye, I'm using a clean damp brush to smooth that paint so it doesn't dry to a hard edge. I'm painting the rock with the same colors, darkening it below the squirrel's feet. I'm also leaving some white areas and wiping across the paper with the side of my brush to create some dry brush texture. I drop neutral tint into the already painted areas as well as plain water. This will create some more interesting, abstract textures. For the acorn, I used burnt umber and painted around a highlight on the left side. Once dry, I paint the sepia in the shadow area on the right and under the cap. Then I add some eye and feet detailing using neutral tint and wait for it to dry. For the line work, I used a Pigma Micron size 01. When doing the fur texture, I'm careful to pay attention to the direction of the fur growth. I also try to create the lines in small groups around the body rather than uniformly dense all over. I want the loose watercolor areas to show through and not cover all of it with the pen work. For the tail, I use longer strokes and make some of them more squiggly. I also made a couple scribbly areas for the darker patches of fur. I prefer to work around the squirrel a little at a time, going back and forth rather than completing section by section. For me, this helps me add the line work conservatively, then after I added it from head to tail, I can look around and assess and add more where I think it's needed. I can too easily go overboard and make the pen work just dominate the whole thing. And in this sketch, I want just enough line work to emphasize details and to be more of a support for the watercolor. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see more tutorials like this one. If you want to learn even more about watercolor painting, select one of these videos on the left side of the screen. Finally, if you have a suggestion for another tutorial subject, please leave a comment below. Happy painting, and I hope you join me for my next tutorial. Bye!